maybe Hangout on air is live. Okay. There's a bit of a lag.
Let's see.
Let's see. Where is it? Okay, there should be a pop-up. Okay. I see. Okay. So I'm going to change it to public. Okay. So now it's public. And there should be a redirect somewhere. Okay. Let's see. You can see there's a pretty significant lag, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see. I don't see anything yet.
Okay, hold on. Aventurine Bettas sees us. Luca is here. B-Stag followed us over.
I haven't seen
There's
it.
Andrew. Okay, so the live stream is coming up. Hey guys, so we need.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there should be. Yeah, okay. So if you refresh the original screen, you can see Glorious Bettas is streaming now with a face of me looking disgruntled.
Seeing the double now.
And people are going over. Okay, so you guys head over to the new stream. There's the redirect there. Okay, we'll give people a little bit of time to head over. Yeah, I'm not sure why that is.
It's working now, so we're happy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just giving people a little bit of time to transfer. Okay. Awesome. Hey, guys. Hello, everyone. I just saw everyone last night. We were streaming last night, too. Different people streaming. But anyway. So as we give a little bit of time for people to get here and for people to realize that I had more technical difficulties. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. How's everybody doing?
Can you see the chat?
I can.
Good.
It's a bit of a delay, I guess, the screen there.
Uh-huh. Yeah, but you can see how it works.
Exactly.
Okay. Sweet. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So Flynn is asking right off the bat, do you have a YouTube channel?
Me? I don't have YouTube. Yeah, well, I do, but it's not really active. I have to do more with that.
Do you even have anything on there?
No, I don't think so. Yet.
Everything's on your website, though.
Yeah, it's website, Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah, we should put your website in the chat there, because it's a massive amount of information.
We're doing my best to share.
So it's, let's see, Betta Territory.nl, right?
Yep.
Okay, so that is Joep's website. Okie dokie. Oh, I just put it there, Flynn. Okay, so let's get the party started. It is noon about at my place on the coast of the Pacific Ocean on the North American continent. But your kids are already asleep. What time is it there?
Well, it's 9:15 p.m. now, so still awake, alive and kicking.
Still awake.
Yeah.
Okay, so I thought we should start with a brief introduction of yourself. So, who is Joep van Esch?
Big question. Well, my name is Joep van Esch. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm a hobbyist, betta breeder. I love to work on half moon placards, basically colors red, blue. I also have some veal tails going on, and I just love these fish. And I like their genetics, and I like all the betta people just to share information and to see what you're all doing in your little fish rooms. And yeah, that's me.
So how long have you been with Bettas? Not that length, not that like the number of years determines anything, but you know.
No, I don't think that really says anything. But it's I'm breeding since 2003, yeah.
And before that, like
I
what
was
got you
re
into Bettas?
Well, what got me, well, I first, as a kid, I bred show budgies with my father, and that I've been doing till my 20s. And then, yeah, in my student room, I actually started to breed guppies, and yeah, and then I got in contact with some betta websites, and I thought, hey, my setup, I can use that also for bettas. And then I switched, and then I got hooked, infected by the virus, and there's no way back.
Wait. I can use the same setup for birds as for Bettas.
No, but for the guppies you can.
Okay. That's awesome. So, oh yeah, so budgies are
Yep.
parakeets for
Yep.
some people, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I used to have one. They're adorable. Oh, that's so cool. I find that a lot of breeders are like that, right? They start with one animal and then they find that genetics and showing and the community and all that are kind of transferable in some way.
Exactly. I think a lot of things, I mean, breeding schemes, well, selective breeding, I guess, what we're talking now. I mean, that's something which you can do with guinea pigs, mice, you can do with horses, dogs, and also with bettas. So it's, yeah, I guess that's overlapping.
Yeah, that's how I got into it. I went from horses to fish, and we have people that went from bunnies to fish, and all sorts of ways to do it. So.
Yeah.
All right, sweet. So, how shall we start? What is our topic for today? Our topic is how to make a line. So, what is a line?
What is a line? Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean,
it's a loaded question.
I mean, when you look in all these pages and all the Facebook, pages what you have and the websites and the forums. I mean, I see a lot of people talking about their lines and I have this line, I have that line, but I think what is important is that one spawn does not mean that you actually have a line already. I mean, for me, a line is a little bit more than just spawning two fish together. I mean, I don't know what your opinion is on this, but I think a line is what we are trying often when we do selective breeding is I think that we really want to create a line of fish where certain characteristics are actually fixed. And when you can do this, then and actually the line gives you these characteristics back when you spawn the fish, I think then you really can talk of a line, because then you really have something going on which you want to get and what you want to fix in a line. And that means often that you have to do more spawns than just one spawn to maintain a certain line, because you can do certain simple line breeding by just crossing brother to sister for several generations, but you can also do out crosses exactly and these kind of things, and then cross back in.
So how about we have an example of some sort? Do you have an example of like one spawn versus having a line, right? I think you have a lot of examples on your website.
Well, I do, but then I really have to, let's see what I can do. Let's see what I can do here. See if I can find some
so for
an interesting example.
Yeah, so like while you're looking, it would be like, I'm just trying to think of an example off the top of my head. So when so a line would be like if you could, okay, you got one.
I can show an example. I mean, this is, let me see how this, let me see if I can get this going so that everybody can see this. Gianne, can you help me? Where's the screen share in this thing?
This bloody program. It's top left. You underneath the chat, there's a little square icon with a green arrow that says screen share.
Okay, let's see if I can get this going.
And then you can pick either the entire screen or an application window to screen share to the chat.
Right. Let me start that up. Sorry. I'll do a full screen thing because it's like I build it into a presentation, and let's see if I can share this. What do you see now?
I see me.
All right, I see you.
Different application window, yeah.
So I have this. Let me check. I guess this one. So do you see this or not? What do you see now?
Yeah. Okay, I'm not gonna say anything so that it stays on your screen. Okay.
Do you see two fish now, or see more already?
I see more.
Okay, then I have to go back. All right. Okay, now I see what you see. Sorry. So basically, what I have here is this is how I started my line. Well, the line of short fin fish, which I'm currently still breeding. So iridescent fish. And what you see on I don't know, is my cursor also moving? Yeah. So this is a copper pair which I got from Gianne and Bettas from Thailand in 2004. And what you see here, this is a blue female, which I got from a friend from Germany. Well, at that time, I crossed this pair with each other, and then I got a copper male and a blue female. I noticed these are long-fin fish, so I was actually breeding long-fin fish in 2004, and also was actually looking for long-fin offspring. And what I also did is I crossed the same male to the blue female, and that gave me also again some nice fish to work with. I bred these two fish. This was an F1 together for an F2, and then suddenly their placards popped up. So I got this platinum pastel metallic kind of fish. And on the other hand, I crossed this half sister with a new male, and I got this fish. This was also an import fish which I got from a friend. I crossed them together, and there was a fish coming out which looked like a short fin female. And I decided to cross these fish together again. And from this point on, actually, the line only gave me placard, so short-finned offspring. And this was the beginning of the line. So this means this is not completely a line yet, because there was still a lot to establish. But this was the beginning of what I'm actually doing today. And that's looking for, balanced placards which are able to maintain finnage and are vital throughout their whole lives. Yeah, and then when you go a little bit further, this is, well, I can show this then. This is actually what you see here, but then in a program where I keep my pedigree. Each square gives this is a male, and each round is a female. So what you can see here, the copper male and the copper female are actually depicted here. This is the male, this is the female. The blue female is there, and then, well, you can see here the offspring, and this guy here is the white placard, and here you see the offspring of this cross, what you have here, you can see actually there. So, but that was a long time ago. Now we are much further. So now we are somewhere here below. This is actually all one. This is all one line. So this means this was 2014 here, and now we are even further. But this is one line. So this means this is not one spawn, this is one line, and you see different arms within these lines, which all come together. So I do multiple spawns with iridescent fish, but they're all one line. And this line contains metallic, non-metallic, black lace, Milano. I can all combine that in my iridescent line. So that's basically an example of what I think a line looks like. So it's not one spawn.
Yeah, sorry, I started laughing because it was like, here's this tiny one, these 3 spawns, and then now we're somewhere down here, hundreds of spawns later.
Yeah.
But wait, could you go back to your the original, not the Gene Pro one, but the other one, the very beginning of the line?
Yeah, this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so wow, I wish I could point at it while I'm talking because now it's on my face instead of the diagram, right? But I can see the diagram very small.
All right.
Okay, so over time, even in these just 2 or 3 spawns, you're selecting for certain traits, right? Because like the first spawn, so you had the first male with the 2 females, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they gave you 2, I'm assuming, very widely like different kinds of fish, and then you started picking for the traits that you wanted to keep going, like you were going for the short-finned,
well,
iridescent colors, right? Or
to be honest, I mean, at this time, I mean, I was a beginner in breeding Bettas, so that means that I really had to learn still a lot where to look for. So that means, yeah, well, of course, I try to look for full dorsal fins. I try to look for nicely balanced finnage. But as you can see, these first long fin fish, which I got, were definitely not really balanced. I mean, you see the caudal is way too small for this fish. And actually, that plakat popped up from this line was not really the initial goal of the spawn. I mean, I wasn't really breeding for placats. I didn't even know that these fish were carrying short fin. But when I saw these fish, I mean, I got hooked. I mean, these fish, when they grew up, I really liked them. I really liked their behavior, the way they swam, etc., etc. So I decided to go on that track.
So, but what I'm saying is, from that beginning, you could have gone multiple tracks, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. Of course, this is only
long fin ones.
Oh, exactly. So. Of course, I could have done that. Yeah, but that that fish, that white plakat which popped up, really, yeah, for me stood out in the way it swam, the way it was behaving, and that's I really like that. So that was my yeah.
And then from that one male bred to 2 different females, the 2 spawns looked different, right? So even though the male is the same,
yeah,
spawning with 2 different females gave you 2 different results.
Yeah, well, it was interesting to see also these light-bodied fish popping up, and yeah, I mean, this clearly was also should have been in this line as well, because when you look at this F2 from this side, which is purely an F2 from this pair, you can also see that light-bodied fish pop up. And I think this is always very important when you build a line, especially when you have fish which are where you don't know the background of these fish. So in order to bring out what is genetically in there, I think you have to look further than 1 generation, and you even sometimes have to look further than maybe than 2 generations in order to find out what is in there. So for me, I mean, the light body was a surprise, but also the fact that short fin fish were in there was a surprise. Yeah. But yeah, you are right. I mean, this is just a selection what I did. I mean, but there were many more fish, and all these spawn codes, they can be viewed on my website. I mean, they're all there. There are no secrets with that respect. You can look them all up to see what the variability was in that line and what all else popped up from these crosses.
So with selection, after a while, you started getting repeatedly over and over again short-finned fish that were iridescent colored, which for bettas, that's like the blues, right?
Yeah.
Blues, copper colors. Yeah.
Yeah, also the light-bodied fish can, of course, are iridescent. I mean, the fish which you see here are actually light-bodied iridescent fish, but they have these a bit of reflecting scales on the body where you can, which makes them iridescent, and it reflects the light which comes on, and because of the iridophores which are there, and that was the main goal of the line, to continue that. Yeah.
So like to make a line, you really have to have a goal.
I mean, I think there are enough breeders among us which didn't have a goal when they started. I mean, they just like to spawn some fish, and I think when you start, it's nicer when you have a goal. But I don't think we can all predict in advance what will come out. I mean, sometimes you really have to look first, what is the result of a certain spawn, to plan further ahead. I mean, it's nice to have a goal in mind, and it's nice that you have an idea of where you would like to take your, well, your line, how do you call it, in the future. But sometimes when you end up with for instance, a spawn with all females, or the quality is not like you really want, then you have to take another route, and you have to you take another track towards your goals.
Be flexible.
Exactly. And I think what I would advise people is work with your fish. I mean, you don't need a lot of fish to really create a line. I mean, you can, when you look at this, again at this picture. I mean, I got 4 fish, which from other breeders, but I could work with these fish for about a year, and still with these fish I can continue further. So that means that within more than a year you can create many more options, and I could have done way more spawns when I had more space at that time, but I didn't. But you can actually create your options yourself. I mean, look further than just, you know, all the same color and all the same tail type. I mean, you can, if you really want to achieve a goal, you will notice that there are more routes you can take to achieve that. And I think you have to be flexible there.
Yeah, you can never anticipate what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Ever.
Exactly.
That's okay. We have some great questions that are in line with what we're talking about. So let's see. So hold on, guys in the chat. So love it. Love all the side conversation. So because we're trying to stay really on top of the how to make a pure breeding line, I'm going to pick questions that, you know, are kind of in line with what we're talking about to keep the conversation smooth, so that we can really get in depth into this topic. So Hassan Salih, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. I'm so sorry. If I do this cross, can I get the same result? And he asked that whenever you started talking about the beginning of this iridescent. So will same crosses always come up with the same results? It's like long fin with short fin, iridescent on iridescent, stuff like that.
Well, shortly the answer is no. I mean, and that's just because with certain things it will be like when you cross certain fish together, and they are pure for a certain characteristic, you will definitely get the same result. But when you don't know the background, there are all different kind of traits in the fish, in the genetics of the fish. They can pop up during the line. Like for me, it was the light body, which I didn't know. It was a short fin, which I didn't know, and that then pops up, and you never know what is then hidden in the line, unless you of course buy from a breeder who really kept a database of what he or she crossed to get these fish which you purchase. And I think so. I think with Bettas, I think we can make, based on the knowledge which is there and the genetic knowledge and what all the people have shared in the past years, I think we can make a pretty good prediction of what should come out. But you can never be 100% sure. I mean, certain lines suddenly give a red wash in the finish, in the ventral fins of someone, and the base of the fins. Suddenly a marble pops up, double tails pops up. You know, these are all things which you can see. I mean, you can, from the double tail, you can already judge a lot from a single tail's dorsal, but you cannot be 100% sure. And I think that's also the nice thing in this hobby.
Yeah, it's you want some predictability, but not too much. Like that would make it so boring. So, but yeah, I love that question, because it's like that's the whole point of a line, is like well, not the whole point, but it's like a huge part of it is, if I cross this fish to this fish, what will I get? And I would say in a line, you have a higher probability of predicting what you're going to get, so. Right? Yeah.
I agree.
Whereas if you're working with fish that don't come from a line, then, you know, a quote unquote line, then you're not going to be able to predict so much what those fish are carrying, because a line is like, repeated crossing a fish with similar characteristics to get a fish that looks like it.
Yeah,
again.
exactly.
Yeah,
I agree.
Let's see. Let's see. There was another question. Oh, hey, Stacy's here. Hi, Stacy. You feel like that. Let's see. Let's see.
I'll let you select the questions.
Okay. Oh, this one you're going to like. So Ruru2M's asking, does a fish have to get full size before it is culled?
That's before it gets cold.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's also has to do, I think, with a little bit of experience. I mean, you have to know what to look for. I mean, sometimes you get fish which are, you know, quick developers and they show their potential really fast. And sometimes you need fish to be jarred and really see how well, when they boost and when they grow out, what they will become. Other things like, for instance, rose tails, which I'm definitely not a fan of, it is something which you can spot already really early. I mean, you can see that already in a fish of 2 weeks. And yeah, if you then want to cull, I would say, why leaving it to grow to a big fish? I mean, I would say then cull in a very early stage. For rosedale, I cull heavily. So if they pop up, and they do pop up also in my spawns, it becomes less and less because I heavily select for it. But yeah, these are things which you can definitely select for in an early age already.
Mm-hmm. So some traits are early, some come in late.
And
I
mean,
Could you put up a rosetail fish, like an example of a rosetail fish?
Okay. And I will go to the article I wrote some time ago because I guess that's the most clear. Let me share.
So yeah, so quickly for me, like I wait to spawn my fish for a while. Like I don't spawn them until they're like finally select breeders until they're like 8 months old, because the metallic fish that I'm working with seem to have a higher propensity, seem to be at greater risk of developing cancer. So so I have to wait to see if a fish is going to develop cancer or not, because I have a fish that looked beautiful at 6 months and then had a gigantic growth when he turned 7, and now it's enormous, and it grew that quickly in the last month. So it depends. Some you can see early, some you can see late. So
one moment, I'll try to look for another thing. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's very important not to breed your fish too young. I mean, when you breed your fish very young, I mean, and then that often can mean that they are not fully developed yet. I mean, I think this counts for long fin fish, but also for short fin fish. I mean, when you have a long fin fish and you jar it, I mean, most of the young half moons, they are balanced when you jar them. But how many of these half moons which you have jarred are still balanced when they are 1 year old? And I think a lot of them are not, because then the finish becomes too heavy, it becomes too long, the fish is dragging the finish along. And I think that's something which we should try to prevent. Because I think when you look at the original half moons and the way they were selected, these people really looked for balanced fish throughout their lives. I mean, I was privileged to see some of these fish of Rajiv Masilamoni when I started, and he got half moons which were 2.5 years old, and they were still able to flare, and they were normal holding the finish. And I think that's something which is really a characteristics which we do not see that often anymore in the half moons which we see today.
Yeah, when you can see a half moon, like an older, huge half moon swimming and flaring, it's gorgeous. Just gorgeous. Yeah.
But also with placots, I mean, when you have fish, they're nicely balanced when I jar them. But sometimes that anal fin just, you know, becomes really long when they age. So my breeder fish usually are they are always older than 6 months. So most of them which I breed are actually 9 or 8, or 9 or 10 months even when I breed them for the first time. And that makes sure that I do not get any strange surprises anymore. So their finish will not suddenly become really heavy, or they are not able to maintain their finish or something like that. I mean, these are already really adult fish, and I think that helps. So I was actually looking for some rosetail pictures.
Yeah, I think the heaviness of the finish will go along with what you're talking about in rosetail, like because it's really huge. Yeah.
Let me show you this one. This is from a presentation I gave some time ago. I hope you can see this picture. What you can see here, I think these are all young Rosedales, and they're all bred in my fish room at some point. They all popped up from some spawn. And you can actually see already this is a fish which I think maybe 3 weeks old or something. This is maybe not very clear from this picture, but you can already see that this is when you're looking at this fish, you can see that the caudal fin is almost already, it's 160 spread, and there are a lot of rays in there. Actually, what you see here is similar in the fish on the left picture in the upper row. You can see here a lot of branching, but you already can also see that the scaling in this fish is not normal. The dorsal is very small, ventrals are very short, and it's these are the signs for me to look at, and you can really see that already in this stage. So when these fish grow up further, often you can also see that the way that you see some metallic dragon scaling here, but the way this black underlayer is distributed already says a lot, because in these Rosedale fish you often see that the scaling is asymmetrical, and that underlaying black layer is then is disrupted. You do not see that it's spread normally like with your normal fish. So for me, these are fish. This is where I really look at. I don't know if you can see it like this. These are characteristics where I look at very young age to spot these Rosedale, to get out these Rosedale fish.
So if these fish were to continue growing, what would they look like as adults?
Let me check, because this is an example, for instance, of two. Let me get rid of these strings. Sorry. This is an example of two fish which are 8 weeks old. And these are two brothers, so they're from the same spawn. And this was actually the spawn of my first encounter with Rosedale, as the title already says. So this is a nice fish. I mean, this is on the left is a fish which has, the balance is maybe not completely there, but it's smooth fin, there's a nice color, and you also see that the distribution of the rays is okay. On the right, you see a fish which really has, it's out of proportion when you look at the finnage in comparison to the body. There's a lot of branching. It's really rough on the edges. The ventral fins are very short, but also this anal fin. This is also a long fin fish. You see that the balance is completely off, and also when you look at the scaling, there definitely is something not really right. When these fish grow up, they will never reach the balance. And these are of course extremes. What I'm talking about. There are much milder Rosedales where you can still maybe work with when you outbalance them. And I mean, also in this hobby, there are people who love Rosedales.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I cannot decide for people to what to breed, but I think it's important to keep in mind that the fish has to be able to swim, and I think that's something which we should not lose in our breeding goals. So, for instance, when you look at this, I mean, for me, this on the right is way too much, and this is something which, I do not want to see in my fish room ever. And luckily, I think most standards also are built up that way. That these type of fish are not supported in shows, and I'm personally very happy with that.
Because with all this inbreeding, you can get like these really extreme phenotypes and really extreme like body modifications. I think they use it in the goldfish world, but at the core of it, we want a fish that's still healthy. Yep. So and then there's a lot of debate of that. We can open this up in a later live stream, probably about like double tail. Mm-hmm. How double tail when it first came out was probably somewhat detrimental, and it's associated with a lot of things, but you can get healthy fish with certain traits.
As I said, I mean, I think with the Rosedales, when you look at the milder Rosedales, I mean, you definitely sometimes see pictures which are more balanced, and these fish are better. They can hold their finnage and they can swim better. Mm-hmm. I think, I mean, there might be a class for those fish in the future. I mean, even though I'm not the biggest fan, I mean, that doesn't matter. I think it is that I think what is important is that these fish do not win in our half moon classes, because these fish are not half moons, in my opinion. I mean, these fish, they have different characteristics. And when you look at the half moon standard, I mean, I have big issues when in a show a pretty extreme rosedale actually wins from a balanced half moon, because I think then we really should at what is written in the standard, and I don't think then a rosedale fish can ever win from a half moon fish.
All right. That's another live stream. You
exactly. Well, we have to make some. We have to give some options.
Okay, so trying to. I don't want to like move along too fast because I want to like get into every topic. So,
yeah.
But Hassan had another great question. Please tell us about inbreeding. So what is inbreeding and how is that implicated in making pure lines? And he further elaborated, he or she further elaborated, how can we get the same in every spawn?
Okay. Well, I think we have to go a little bit to terminology of genetics. I mean, at that point, I think when you really want to understand what inbreeding really does, I think you have to. Do you agree, Gianne? Is it okay if I cover a little bit of that?
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Just like make it accessible.
Okay.
So
I will try to do it also from let's see, from a
be a
presentation.
teacher. You be a teacher. You as a teacher.
That's usually in Dutch. Let's see. I'll do my best.
I'll help.
Okay, I will go. Let's see. I hope this. The problem is a little bit. I made a presentation, and I cannot really show my presentation the way it is. Do you know how to do that?
I mean, the application window should apply to any program.
Yeah, but it doesn't go with my presentation. It goes full screen. I don't really see it.
Oh, it's not. What are you trying to open?
Yeah, it's a PowerPoint.
Oh, I thought you were showing things in PowerPoint earlier.
Yeah, I do, but okay. Let me do it differently. I can do it in PowerPoint in a different way. Okay, let me do this. Sorry, guys, for the.
Oh no. So yeah, we have. Right. I mean, this is different, right? We have lots of general chats, so this is a very focused, very specialized chat.
Let's see here. I mean, this is something also in a presentation I gave a few years back. Well, it says already, October 2014. So I think when it is important a little bit to understand how genes work. When we talk about genotype, we say these are the genes of the fish or any organism we are talking about. So this is genetic makeup. When we talk about phenotype, this is what we see, the outside. So when we see a blue fish, there's the fin type, the way, what color the eyes are exactly. This is the phenotype. This is what we see. But when you look at genes, you have to understand that every gene actually has two copies, and because we all have chromosome pairs, and when we are made, we get one copy from our father, one copy from our mother, and this comes together. And when we get the same gene, we say that this gene actually is homozygous. So that means this is actually we have the same copy of a certain trait on both copies of the chromosomes we have. This means that you can also have heterozygous, because we also can have like two different copies on the chromosome. So let me show this in a beta example, because this might be better. It might be better.
Sorry.
So when you look at genes, they can be dominant or they can either be recessive. So dominant will mean that in a heterozygous organism, so that means when you have two different copies, that the dominant trait is fully expressed, so that the dominant trait you see in the phenotype. When you look at recessive, that means that this is actually, for instance, the example which I showed in the beginning, the light-bodied trait, the short fin trait, which popped up in my line when I started. I didn't know it was there because the fish were long fin. So, but these are recessive in the genotype, and it popped up because we worked with the fish. So, for example, when you have here, let's take, okay, these are of course two pictures of two males, but let's say there's one male and one female, and it doesn't really matter which one is long or which one is short. But let's take this as example quite easily. When you take the long fin, it means that this fish is, and in this case we take a pure long fin, so it means it's homozygous for the long fin treat. On this side you have a female which is really a pluck-up, so which actually also always is a pluck-up, because a pluck-up will never carry long fin. So when you then use a Punnett square, and these are squares which are used in biology where you can easily predict the outcome of a certain cross, you will see that when you go to the sex cells, the male can only give in each sex cells half of his genotype. So they can only give in this case a long fin gene, and in this case also a long fin gene. And you also will see that here from the female, that this can only pass on short fin treats. The LF sign here in dominant treats is always, we put that in capitals, and in this case we use lowercase letters for recessive treats. Gianne, if I missed something, please fill in. If you
I think you're doing great.
Too fast. All right.
I think you're doing great.
So
we'll ask clarifying questions soon.
All right. Okay. So what happens if we cross these fish? So this means that if you cross these fish together, you will actually get 100% fish, which got one copy of the male and one copy of the female, and they all will be long fin, because the long fin gene, what we just learned, it was written in capital letters, so this was long fin, and the short fin, which is actually LF, but then written with capital letters in this case, in this example, will also be there. So we get heterozygous fish, but they phenotypically, so from the outside, they will be long fin fish, but genetically they will be carrying short fin genes.
Mm-hmm.
So this means that when you continue this, and I haven't. So what happens here, and this is then the next step when you understand what is going on here, you can also go a little bit deeper into the inbreeding part. And this is actually what inbreeding is. I mean, inbreeding is really breeding closely related animals together. And what do you do on a genetic level? What would you like to get on a genetic level? This is actually just fixating certain traits. So if you keep inbreeding for a number of generations, you at a certain point will increase homozygosity. So you will get all in this kind. You will get all bettas which have, which are homozygous for a certain trait.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and there are different ways to do that. I mean, line breeding, that's also a way of inbreeding, but usually a little bit less intense. And usually most breeders actually use a combination of line breeding and inbreeding actually to fix traits. And so sometimes to improve the line, we use something else, and that's called outcrossing. So usually we then cross one fish of our own line with a fish which is unrelated or partly related, and then we try to get heterozygous fish on some points, and then to really bring that back into our own line in a later stage.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's actually that's inbreeding.
Yeah, and Russell Beach had a question that went really closely with that, and I think you just answered it. Was inbreeding should stamp qualities as well as faults, right? Like good and bad qualities. Yeah. All it is like all the individuals in that inbred population will have the same version of the same gene over time.
Yeah.
Right?
The problem with inbreeding is that you don't know. I mean, it's a matter of chance. You don't really know what you are fixing. I mean, we can only select for the phenotypical things. I mean, we can select for the way the fish looks, color, balance, also behavior. I mean, we can look at that. But what really happens when you cross two fish together on the genetic level, that's a matter of chance. So what you do, for instance, if you would inbreed actually for several generations, this is also what happens, for instance, with laboratory strains of mice. At a certain point, if you just keep inbreeding brother to sister for instance, 7 or 8 generations, you have a chance that you can fix, of course, the desired traits, but you can also fix traits which you don't really want. For instance, fish in bettas, it can be something like males which cannot wrap females anymore, or
do you have the same thing? We call them TSTB males.
TSTB male. I don't know. No. Sorry, I'm not familiar with that.
No, it's too stupid to breed.
That's a good way to.
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, no problem. But you can also fix those things, and that's something which you always have to. That's why you have to observe your fish always very closely. I mean, sometimes things pop up which you don't want, and if this really occurs, we can actually get something where the line is not so productive anymore as it used to be, and that's something what we call then an inbreeding depression. And if you can get out this inbreeding depression, I mean, that's actually nice, because then you really have an homozygous. If you can get through this F7, F8, which I personally never ever get to, because I always outcross in a way earlier stage. But this is something which is always a risk, and this is important to keep an eye on that.
Yes. Okay. So to avoid inbreeding depression, oh wait, hold on. So I thought this question went really well with our conversation. Mr. Super 101 is asking the difference between inbred and line bred. So could you elaborate a little bit more on that, and why a breeder might choose one? Because you said three, right? You said inbred, inbreeding, line breeding, and outcrossing. And kind of elaborate on the differences between those three, and why a breeder might choose one over the other.
See, I think when you cross brother to sister, I mean, this is, I think, a way where you can get into 20 generations. You can really get into an inbred line where you have, like, what is it, about 89.4% of the genes are then homozygous. And this is scientifically determined, that you can make calculations there, and it will never get 100%. It will only approach 100%, because we always have a part of spontaneous mutations which will pop out, etc. So inbreeding is actually getting, you can actually calculate the degree of inbreeding. Personally, I never do this, but if you can do that. There are several mathematic formulas to do these things. And if you talk about F2, you already, you can say on forehand, this is so much inbred, this is so much inbred. With line breeding, you can also achieve that, but this will take a little bit longer, because you are breeding fish together which are less related to each other. I mean, you can, for instance, breed half brother to half sister. You can breed uncle to niece, etc. And as I said, usually I like to use actually more the line breeding in combination with inbreeding, because it gives me more options. So when I have only 3 fish, I can cross one male, for instance, and one is a male and 2 are females. I can cross the male with both of the females. I can do 2 things. I can go F2 from both spawns, but I can also intercross them. I can also take it for several generations completely separately as 2 parallel lines, and then inbreed together.
So that's my favorite. Yeah. I like 2 different ones.
This is something which every breed, I think there's no fixed rule here. I mean, it's not like after you watch this conversation, you should do this or you should do that. I think better breeding is flexible. I mean, when you look at how many successful breeders have done this in the past, everybody uses his or her own method. For me, I really like to work with a line, in the sense that I like to create options. So if I have a fish which is homozygous for a certain breed, for instance, I'm working with a Milano fish, for instance. I don't have a Milano female. So what do? I cross to, well, I like to cross them to steel blues. I know opinions are different on this matter. For me, a Milano is a bicolored fish. I like to see it with a steel blue female. So I would like to see a steel blue body with black finish.
And oh my gosh, that's another live stream.
That's another live stream. But if I cross that together, I mean, I will get, in the first generation, I will get carriers. But if that's my only option to work with, I mean, I can also cross the same male to another female, and it gives me more carriers. And these carriers are actually very valuable, because 100% sure that they are all carrying Milano. So that means that you can actually create fish to work with, and you don't have to buy them. I mean, of course you can buy if you have enough of money. Please buy. For me,
support the fish industry.
But it's more. It's for me. It's much more fun to create something, or to get what I want after a few generations, and that sometimes takes a year, sometimes takes 2 years. But it really, it really is a lot of pleasure if you then see something swimming in your fish room, which you really achieve by working with a line.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
That's my favorite. Is like when I look at those fish back there, like I have not brought in any new fish since like those guys, those are the crown tail placots.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't brought any in since whenever I went to Germany and brought them back. Like they all started from those 3 fish from Jamie and from, oh no, I forgot his name. Oh, he's an Italian breeder. I'll have to look it up. But I can like go back and see generation on my website. Everything is laid out, like all the parents, grandparents, siblings, everything. It's like very satisfying. So, okay, hopefully we got those questions. I think, yeah. You just have to be flexible and go with what works best for your line.
Yep.
So
that's what I would say exactly.
And then I love this question. Ruru2Ms, do you bring that line chart when you trade with other breeders? I do.
Oh, see, well, I will switch to my. I will share a little bit.
Yeah, I'll just say real quick. Like whenever someone gets a fish from me, I give them the website URL, and I'm like, this is where this fish came from, and you can follow it back. It's what do they call it in dogs and cats and their pedigree? Yeah, it's their pedigree. This is their pedigree. This is what you can expect. This is what the visible characteristics you can see of all of their closely related individuals, so you can kind of predict. Again, that's the value of making a line. So yeah, so here's the fish. Here's its baby pictures. Here's everything you could ever plausibly want to know about this fish, and good luck and try it with one of your fish, So I do. I bring their pedigree, or I at least send the pedigree to them somehow.
I think that's also important. I mean, I think that's important. But personally, I think there should be no secrets in this hobby. I mean, I think it's more nice that you can actually, I mean, why have secret spawns? I mean, secret spawn logs. I mean, share these things. And that's what I try to do on my website. I will give you an example on how people can actually, because what you say, I do exactly the same. In the sense that when people buy a fish, I mean, I always give them, if they want, I give them the spawn code. So I can always show them what was in there. For instance, if people buy a vealtail from my line, I can give them the code, which will be then in this case BT010916, and this is a bit different. This means that this fish actually spawned on the 1st of September 2016. That means that if you go to my website, you can already see that these were the parents of the male, these were the parents of the female. And here you can already see this line breeding part going on, because what you see here is actually that this male is exactly the same male. So this female is a half sister to this male. In this case, this is an F2. So that means that these 2 fish were actually siblings. This was an F1. In this case, this was actually the same male, but then bred to a pet shop female, which I don't know any background of. So this was just because I liked the yellow color, I liked her form, and I wanted to outcross this. When you click, in this case, the code which is here, you can actually see what was the spawn, where the parents came from. So what in my opinion is always nice when you buy fish, is also to see what was the rest of the quality of a spawn. I mean, was this one nice fish from a spawn, or was this actually, were there actually more fish which you really like based on shape? If you want to go further, you can even go and click here, and then you can see this is the initial pair where I started in 2015 with my vealtail line. So both are pet shop fish. I mean, I know some people think that you can never ever build a line from pet shop fish. I don't agree. I think you can definitely do it. It sometimes is more difficult. You will get more variability, but again, this is fun. I mean, I think it's really good.
Make it fun. It's your
hobby.
Keep it
fun. It is fun. I mean, when it's not fun, stop breeding bettas immediately.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, you should enjoy this. I mean, I still enjoy every spawn which I make with my fish. I mean, even I saw a lot of them in the past years, but it still makes me very happy when I see eggs in the nest and I see these little fry and they grow up, and this is what I really want to see. So personally, I really try always to look at also at other fish which were in the spawn, and ask breeders for the background. And I will go to one quick example, and this is this, for instance. Sorry, I hope you can see this. Change screen share, I think. For instance, if you take this screen, I hope you can see it.
Hold on, oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, do you see it? So I think it is important then when you look at the phenotype, so what does the fish look like? And we take these fish in the middle. When you have here this super nice half moon, but when these are all the brothers from that same spawn, you take this fish, but these are all the brothers from the same spawn. I mean, it might be that this fish is actually a better breeder than this fish, because the fish on the left has way more nice brothers than the fish on the right, which is really, really nice itself, what has brothers which have way less spread. So a breeder doesn't always have to be a showfish. Most of my fish actually, which I breed, are not my showfish. And a showfish definitely doesn't have to be a good breeder. I mean, sometimes the brother, which you can purchase for half the money, is a way better, inherits way better than this top showfish.
But that's when they're coming from a line, right?
Exactly. That's when
like
they
have the
exactly.
line,
yeah,
the pedigree,
and that's what you don't always know. I mean, if you purchase a fish from or import a fish, most of the time you also cannot really, you are not 100% sure on what the background of these fish is. I mean, it's really nice if some Asian breeders which have 10,000 fish can really keep up with their lines and really tell you the information on the background. But yeah, most of the times this is difficult. So you have to find out. And how do you find out? I think this is by line breeding.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And sometimes people do like test crosses, right? They'll be like, I'm not sure, so we'll just put them together and see what happens. And that's part of the real fun of it, I think.
It is.
I love that part because it's like, oh, I didn't know there was double tail in there. That's it's awesome.
You can find a lot. You can find out a lot yourself if you are if you know a little bit on these genetics. I mean, I think you can really find out a lot by doing some test crosses like you suggest.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, I just want to reiterate, guys, in the chat, I'm not like purposefully ignoring certain questions. I just want to keep this particular live stream super in line with how to make a line. Okay, so there are a lot of awesome questions here about basic genetics that I'm pretty sure we're going to have to do a whole nother live stream for. Like how certain traits get passed on, like can short fin give rise to long fin and stuff like that. So I'm not purposely trying. If we run out of the questions that relate to pure lines, making pure lines, then maybe we can branch out. If Hugh doesn't need to go to sleep ever.
I don't.
You never sleep. I can't believe it. Like, I don't understand how you sleep like only 3 hours a night. Like,
there are more people who go, yeah, I should sleep more.
It's because you have kids. People with kids just magically stop sleeping. Oh, Stacy, thanks. Okay, so sorry, going way back. The mother of my CTPK line, one of the mothers, was bred by Gaston Tomai.
I hope I'm saying that. Italian breeder, yeah.
Yeah, and that was one where I trusted the background a little bit because, like, he had the pedigree. He shared it with me afterwards, and but she had been disqualified because she had a scale fault on her side, and but I kept looking at it and I kept thinking that it was a bite in the grow out. So, and I was right. Haven't had any scale faults since then. So that was a test, Yeah. So, okay. So here's one that relates quickly. So, Stacy's getting questions from, I guess not from YouTube, but if you breed LOL at TSTV. Oh my God. If you breed two unrelated individuals, I suppose, at what generation would you say the line is your own?
I find it very difficult. I mean, you can actually speak of a unique spawn already after 2 generations, in my opinion, because if you make a cross and you buy 2 inbred fish and you breed them together, I mean, at some point you will actually make the selection. I mean, the selection which you as an individual breeder make for the future generation is based on characteristics you really like. Even if I would give you the same breeding pair which I have spawned in my own fish room, still the results I think would be different if we are 3 or 4 generations further, because we always have different preferences in selecting our fish. And if you breed together, I mean, if you breed 2 inbred lines, which for instance are not related, so say if you would get an inbred female from Gianne, you would get an inbred male from me, and you will cross these fish together, the first generation likely will look very similar. I mean, you can see a lot of similar fish because they will be heterozygous in most of the treats. The second generation, however, if you put them for F2, you will see way more variability probably, because in the F2, you will actually get homozygous fish, heterozygous fish for dominant and recessive treats. So it might be that the F2 might actually give you more variability than what you got in the first generation. And then from there, you have to select and select and select. And this selection, that is something which no breeder does the same. I mean, we all have certain, if I put 10 males in a row, and I think the experiment from Gianne with her crown-tail pluck-up males, where we had to select which fish would respawn, I think is a nice example. I mean, some people would say, okay, I will go for male 4, and others would say, no, I will take male 1. And there's no wrong or no right, which he already also clearly explained. I mean, probably when you take male 4, you will also get nice results. And maybe it would be even better to spawn both with the same female, you know, to get
Is
further.
what I am planning.
Exactly,
but
but
I like line breeding and inbreeding, so
yeah.
I'm gonna split them apart.
Yeah, so I think that talking of your own line, I think well, a line is maybe a big word, but I think you can already, when you have a spawn, I think spawns are very quickly already unique in the sense that when you work further than 1 generation, you are really doing something which nobody else does in the world, even if you spawn similar colored fish, because you are doing something which nobody else with the same genetic pool is doing at that point. So that is my opinion on it.
Yeah, I agree. It's like that sense of ownership is really cool. Like, this is mine. Like, you know, and it's what makes trading fish really fun too. It's like, and showing fish, you see, and then everyone has different opinions about the same kinds of fish, and I love it. I love it.
And that also should be there, because I mean, there should be room for that. Yeah.
So let's see. Oh, here's an interesting one. I actually have 2 questions that relate very closely to one another. So Joe Cooper was asking, how many generations have you inbred a line before it collapsed? And I think that goes closely with Russell Beach's question, do you find any sterility in an inbred fish? So like, at what point have you seen your fish get into that inbreeding depression, sterility, recessive buildup of recessive genetic diseases, that kind of stuff?
I don't think I ever took a line that far. So that means that with pure inbreeding, I usually never go to further than maybe F3, F4. But what I do use a lot is this line breeding method. So I do breed, for instance, 1 male to a female and that same male to an unrelated other female, and then work further there. So that means that I never get to the point where I really get this depression, because I don't want to breed to that point. I mean, I usually already see in F3 or F4, I see certain characteristics, like for instance, a broader dorsal or something else which I would like to improve. And then I usually make an outcross with fish, and that's what I like with when you talk about a line in the bigger sense, that you have way more fish to work with. I mean, when you have certain spawns in parallel, which are all related in some degree, you have a lot of options to prevent that you will get an inbreeding repression. So you don't have to go to F7 or F8 to yeah, to try this. I mean, personally, I do not like that. I use more a line breeding way there.
Yeah, and I think I have similar things. Like I don't think I've gone past F3 brother sister, but I do the same thing. Like when I started both the crown tail double tails and now the crown tail placots, I had one male. I actually had two brothers, and then I spawned them to two different females. And then I had them going. In my website, I have like CTPK line, or sorry, CTPK form versus CTPK color. And then I, did brother sister a couple times, and then I finally crossed them, and I got the best fish ever, which is where I'm at now. And then now I'm gonna do the same female with two different brothers, and then go like that. So
I can see if maybe I can show another example. Let's see. I can show an example of the red line I'm having. Maybe that's nice for people to see. So I started this iridescent line, which I showed before, in 2004. But I always really liked red fish, but around that time I could not really get half moon placots, which were red, and I could not get my hands on that at that point. So what I could get is from a friend. I could actually borrow a half moon, which was bred by Bettas, which was a really nice red Cambodian-based half moon. And from a friend from Belgium, I could get a traditional red placard female, which was also Cambodian-based. So what I did is I crossed these fish together, and I thought, hey, let's try. I mean, I did it with these iridescent fish. Let's see if I can get placards back from scratch, just by crossing a traditional placard to a half moon. So in its first generation, well, I got fish which were between vealtail and delta. So that means that their color was very rounded. They were nicely red with some blue iridescence, but the spread was not really there, and they were all long-finned fish. What happened here is that I went on holiday, and then I had two males and three females were sitting in one big grow out. They were only 2.5 centimeters, and these fish, when I came back from my holiday, and a friend was actually taking care of these fish, they spawned with all the males. So there were like two small nests and hundreds of youngsters in this. Never happened to me after that, but the friend clearly took really great care of my fish, because they actually spawned in the grow out, which was of course way too young, and I don't really like to do it that way. But what it did give me, and that was really nice, is what it gave me in the second generation. It gave me a placard back. So it means that this is already a short finned fish, which of course has a way too long anal fin. But what I do like is it has a really nice dorsal, and I hope. Can you see my cursor also?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you make it larger?
Yeah, I don't know if I can, because I don't know if if I still see everything. Can you? Let me see. Okay.
Okay. That's okay.
Is it okay?
That's better. Yeah.
So let me go back to here. So this is the initial pair I saw with. These are the F1, which is quite field tailish, round tail like delta. And then when you look at this, is then the second generation. This was not the best picture, but it was after the female spawn. But what you see here is that there was already a nice D-shaped caudal fin, and this is a short fin fish, although the anal fin is way too long. So what I did is I crossed these fish together. So that means that this female and this male, which you see here, are actually the third generation. So they are F3. And then suddenly you see that these fish are already a little bit more in the direction what we would like to see. I mean, they are clearly short-finned fish. They already, of course, there's work on the finnage, etc. But they were fish where I could work with. What I did not really like with these lines is that the dorsal fin was quite small. So the base of the dorsal fin was small. So I thought, let's try to find a nice double tail. And of course, the double tail placard I could not find. So I actually bought a double tail half moon from Bettas again. I crossed it to this female, and from this spawn I got some females which were long fin fish, but they had these broad based dorsal fin. And what I then did is I crossed this female back into my original F3, so to the brother of this female which I crossed to the double tail. And I crossed these fish together, and from these I got then both short finned fish again, but also long finned fish. And they clearly inherited these broad dorsal fin from the female. Of course, there were also fish which did not show this, but I was looking for these broader dorsals, and that clearly succeeded. So even though there is a small rip here in the fin, I mean, you can see that this is a pluck up, which personally I really like to see. And this was actually a long finned fish, where also you could even go in the direction of half moons, but that was not my goal. A friend of mine actually used this fish again. But this is, this was a fish which I could actually use to breed further with. So to come back to the question, what I did here, let me zoom out a little bit. What I did here is then I bred to F3. This is the F3. And in the F3 generations, I made an outcross, which I then crossed back to the F3 generation. And from here, you could actually work on. You can cross this again with brother to sister, or outcross with other females, because I had more spawns going on than only this, which were within the same line, which I could work with and cross back to. So I hope that answers the question a little bit.
That's a beautiful example of inbreeding and then an outcross and then options. Like, that was awesome.
Good.
Yeah, that was great. Let's see. Oh no, I had another question and then I lost it. Let's see.
So Gianne, let me ask you a question. How far are you with your ground to pockets? What is the generation now there?
I'd have to look. I don't spawn. Oh, that was a good kind of related question. How often do we spawn? I forget. I think Russell asked it. Let me look. Like how often we spawn. So to get those results that you had right there, how long did it take you to get there?
Well,
I'm deflecting, by the way.
This is this was 2 years.
2 years, and so you spawned
every. Let me see. This is normally well, every 7 months or so. Every 7 or 8 months with a next generation, because as I said in the beginning, I like to have my fish really fully developed. So I want to be that they are at least 7 to 10 months before I spawn them. Yeah.
So for me, I think I'm 3 years in, because I'm looking in my records. This is the original reason why I started a website, and I was inspired by Joep. by Joep's website. So
I was inspired by Jim Saunier and I don't know if I pronounce his name right, and by Phil Lafferty. In that, I think he's not breeding anymore. There was a website called Betta Cave.
The Betta Cave, yeah.
Exactly, and he had something which was a bit of a. It was less. I think Jim Saunier. I don't know if I say it right. Is that
Saunier, yeah.
Saunier, yeah.
I think so.
I never met him. So, but what he had on his website was really nice. That he actually, you could see the pair he spawned, why he wanted to spawn it, and often when he had fish for sale, you can also see the results. And I think that's really valuable, because people can then get an impression on what the outcome could be. And that's what I tried to do on my website. And I'm happy that more and more people are doing the same, because this is what we want. At least I really like to see that people show what they are breeding and how a line develops, how their line develops. And it's also nice when you work together with other hobbyists, that when you purchase a fish, you can see the background, and in the future you can even see, if you get a fish back 2 years later, you can even trace back how it connects to your own line, and that gives a lot of valuable information.
Yeah, and just remembering things.
Exactly.
Me. Like when you ask the question, I'm like, oh my gosh, how long has it been? Yeah. And I need to update it, but I'm on my 8th spawn with the crown tail placottes, and I started in 2014, and there are 2 spawns that I need to log from last year and the one that I just did. But it's I need to. Oh, this would be a good time for you to go into your Gene Pro program, because that's what I need. I need. I make my genealogical charts with PowerPoint right now, but the Gene Pro program, I'm going to switch to that soon because this is going to be too much for PowerPoint. And because of the way my spawns are logged, I can tell there's not a lot of resolution. Like there's too much resolution. Like I can tell from spawn to spawn, but I don't have like a graphic organizer to just say, oh, I'm on generation, whatever.
Okay.
Hold on. So while you're looking at that, okay, so 1, 2. Okay, so I had 2 half brothers, I think, and then, or 1, 2, 3. Well, I made spawns in, and then first I did I have the same male? Okay, yeah, there we go. I had that, and then I bred to that one. So then I had 2 brother-sister crosses on either side, and then I had 1 cross, and then 2 more brother-sister, and then 1 more cross. Our next live stream, I'll have a beautiful graphic like you do.
So we get also a question I see now from Jamie Hansen. So what is a good gene program to use? So I think that nicely connects to. So yeah, I think this is difficult. I think there are like what Gianne says. I mean, you can do it on your website. You can do it in PowerPoint. For me, I think I was also looking for a program where I could actually make a pedigree to see how actually different spawns are related with each other. But which would be really easy to use when you add or delete certain arms from the pedigree. And I will show you, I will hope to share, I use a program which is called Geno Pro. So
Could you put it in the chat?
Yeah, I can now, wait, let me do that. I'll put it, so, okay. Oh, do you see something? Do you see it or not?
I didn't. Did you put it into the right one?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't see anything.
It gave me some strange.
Yeah.
Pro.com.
There we go. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is actually a program which is used for genealogy, so for people. Which gives a little bit of funny things when you, of course, enter it. But do you see my, say bye to my girlfriend because she's going to bed. So good night.
Oh, fish widows. I know, I think my boyfriend's at the gym or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm talking to my second girlfriend now. Don't tell her. So, she knows you, right? So let's see. Do you see what I have now here? Do you see my share? Yeah. Okay. So basically, this is the.
Oh wow! Whoops.
This is the program, and you can zoom, do all kind of things. So let me go. Oh, I lost myself. Let me wait. I'll do it a bit easier. This is my. So what you see here, this is an easy one. This is a line. This is the veal-tail line. So basically what you see here, for instance, when I click this square will say it is a male. And when I click this, I will get this information. And this is kind of funny because, of course, this is built for humans. So you can see if your ancestor was some king in some country somewhere ages ago in the Middle Ages, or slayed a dragon somewhere. I mean, you can look back in genealogy. But now I'm using it for reading Betta. So what I'm doing, I will just fill in here the first name. So this is just my, this is a black yellow bicolor veal-tail. That's what I just put there. Breeder is not known, that I put with family name. So the nickname in this case is just the generation or the spawn code. And the full name will then be like this. You can see if it's a male or a female. You can upload, for instance, pictures here. And you can display also the color, what you see in this pedigree program. So this will then show up like this. So in this case, you can see the breeder was unknown. It is a black yellow bicolor veal-tail, and the generation was also not known. So I crossed it with this female, from which I also did not know the background, but also I filled in it in the same way, put a picture of the female, And this is exactly as in the spawn logs which I put on my website. You can see then the results. Well, in this case, this is the male I chose to breed with. This was a black-orange Dalmatian Vealtail. It was bred by me. I live in the Netherlands. This is a spawn code which I put there. So this means that BT says Betta territory. They spawned actually on the 19th of April 2015. This was the first generation. So date of birth, the male, and again you can display the color if you want to get. So black, orange, and this is what you see here. You can easily, if I want to, I can show you. If I, for instance, want to breed this male to another female, I can easily make, for instance, here I can select a new mate. Oh, and it gives me now a little bit of a strange. I should have chosen a different one. I hope this is all visible to you. See. So in this case, I put in a new female, and then I can, now let's say this is a yellow. I can name it a yellow Vealtail. I used it before. Let's see, I got it from. Let's see that I got it from Gianne. USA. And let's see that this was an F1, something like that. So what we now can do, we can display. This will be yellow. So let's put it 2 lines, so like this. So in this case, I can also upload a picture, and you can actually say that, okay, this male, besides some other crosses which I already did with his sister, which is here, I now also bred the same male to another female. When these fish get a kid, I can say, okay, they get a new son, and I can fill in what they want. I mean, then the next generation will be F1. I have bred, because they were born in my fish room. I don't know what color they are. I will say orange, for instance. And then I can upload a picture later on if I want.
Pictures are so important.
Exactly.
I think. Yeah.
So for me, this is a really nice way. I mean, this is not something I will definitely, which I put online on my website. You can actually make a report of that as well, but I'm not using it, and I like the format of my spawn logs there better. But for me, this is important because if I go back like this, and you can actually see how different spawns are related with each other. And I have this for my, in this case, this is my, well, to put it in a big way, this is my iridescent line. Very, very, this is again the place where I started, and this is where we are now. So if you select here, for instance, you will see here a Milano male, where I'm working with at the moment, who has several spawns. You can see which female he, for instance, spawned. You can see here there's a black lace female, which I crossed with a black lace male. These are spawns which are now growing up in my fish room at the moment. I also have that for the red line, and this is the red line where I'm working with. So here, that is 2007. This is 2017. So this is 10 years of work. I did more spawns than this, but this is really the spawns which are now still represented in the fish which I have at the moment, because sometimes it also does not give you results which you want. When you notice, you also see that there are sometimes red things marked in red. And these things which are marked in red are actually spawns which are done by friends. So sometimes I give a fish to a breeder friend, and they spawn this fish, and then I get it back and I cross it back into my line. So for instance, this male, this is a male which is bred by Eugenio Fornaciero from Italy. He's a good friend of mine, and he actually used some fish from my line, and then he crossed it to his own fish. And I crossed this fish then back into my own line later on. And I think that's a nice way of also working together. I mean, you cannot, sometimes you cannot, you only have limited space in your own fish room. So by working with other people, you can actually create way more options. So with only a few fish, you can create way more things to work with. So I hope
Definitely.
this is,
yeah, definitely.
I hope this gives you a little bit of an impression how I keep this up with this program.
Yeah, and then that again, that's not on the website, but a different version or a different way of displaying that information is on your website, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So
So
Yeah.
all these, actually, when you have the information which is on my website with all these spawn codes, you can construct this. You can construct exactly the same, actually even a bigger one, like what I just showed you,
Hmm.
because there are now 220 spawns or something logged in my website. And there are also spawns which I did not continue, or where I did not work. I mean, I stopped with working with metallics and dragons,
Hmm.
and that's something which also was initially into the iridescent line, which I have.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like to make lines and things like that, to have these breeding programs, documentation is so incredibly important. So
exactly.
incredibly important.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's really yeah, that's why what I really actually liked from the old forums, and what I miss, for instance, in a platform like Facebook. When you go back, well, we started, for instance, the Bettas for All forum in 2004,
mhm.
and we made like also a spawn log section and it was actually, you can see now many spawn logs. And of course, with the coming of Facebook, these forums are not used that much anymore, but there's a lot of information actually locked in these forums, in the Bettas for All forum, but also many other forums which are, it doesn't matter where. I mean, if you are in Singapore, or Fanatics forum or something like that, or if you are in the IBC, different, all kinds of forums which are there, where you can see what actually people crossed together, what they got, what their results were. Um, and I think this is important, because it gives you an impression of what you can expect.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that is far more valuable than just a website that says this means this or this is that.
Exactly.
Like whenever you have documentation, whenever you have pictures and descriptions of the parents and then the siblings and just all this evidence, then you
Hmm.
can really try and draw some information out of that.
And I
So
think what is important with these things is that sometimes you can also find, some kind of irregularity. How do you say that? Irregularities.
irregularity, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, different word. Different word. So these are yeah, sometimes you see, like I said, we know certain genes, we know how they are inherited, or we think that we know how they are inherited, and then
Hmm.
sometimes we see something like people saying, okay, I have short finned fish, but I got a long finned offspring. Well, and then it is, when you get these things, then it is very important that you have a spawn log, because then you actually need to see, what did this spawn look like. I mean, was your female, which you thought, which is a short finned fish, actually a long finned fish? Or is there
Hmm.
really something going on, that you actually got something which we could not predict, but which is different than the general rules which we usually use to predict the outcome of such crosses? I
Hmm.
think that is something which you can only see when you have this genetic information on the background.
Yeah. And that's why like whenever people ask me like, "Oh, how is this passed on? How is this, how is
Yeah.
this trait going to work?" It's like, "Well, I really like for example, anytime they ask me anything to do with longfin fish, I really don't know." Because I've never worked with longfin fish. But with the spawn logs, I can be like, "Oh, I know that this breeder did something similar to that. You can ask them and they will have the actual information and they'll be able to
Mhm.
tell you what actually happened." And that kind of like I can speak very well to the fish and traits that I've worked with, and I can pull up a web page and point to, this is what happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's so
So
much power in that.
I see a question. This is more on breeding, but Russell Beach asks a question: how many fry do you raise up in each spawn, and at what time do you call or sell those not used for breeding? How's that for you, Jen?
Well, you can see my setup is quite small. It's just the room behind. I breed lots of other things too. So I shoot for spawns that are like 30 fish tops, and then I grow them up in 10s and 20s, and or gallon tanks. So those size
Hmm.
tanks, and I you can see that I can only jar. Like, well, I can do like 20, I think, if I really put my mind to it. So I can only do one line, and I keep it very strict. And um how I keep the spawn small from the very, very beginning is like the spawn that I just did. It looks like there's about 20, 30 fry. And so I'm not going to respawn that one. Like if I had room, I would.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so, and then I feed, let's see. Wow. I just got derailed totally when I was trying to ask that question. What was the question?
So how
How
many?
many fry?
How many fry? And when
So
do you call?
my spawns are usually quite small. But my fish are really hardy. So I don't know. I don't know how people have like spawns of 200, 300 fish. Like I always end up with like 30, 40 tops.
Yeah.
Um,
I also don't have
so
those big spawns. So.
yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't really, I cull, but like I usually give them to people or take him to the pet shop down the street. And the traits that I look for, you can usually start to see earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I usually from each spawn, I'll try and select like 10. And I
Mm-hmm.
try to get 5 males and females, but that doesn't always work, right?
Yeah,
So,
no, that's
um, and I always try to have like with my space, I only have space to do like one big spawn at a time. So I usually spawn twice a year. And what time do I cull or sell those? It kind of depends. Like some fish grow faster than others. Like in one spawn, you'll have one gigantic fish, and so you have to
Mhm.
jar that one early. And then I'll usually a one trick that I do is if I'm not sure about a fish but I want to watch it but I don't have room, like I'm not sure of it enough to keep it in my care, I'll like give it to one of my friends
Yeah,
and they'll take care of it. And
yeah.
then when it grows up into something really gorgeous, I'll be like, oh, can I borrow them back?
Oh, that's
Or
also nice.
yeah, or they can, or they keep and spawn it and things like that.
Well,
So there's lots of tricks. I don't know.
in I have also I don't have these huge spawns usually, and I sometimes have a spawn with 100 fish, but I have quite hard water, and it seems that my spawns are usually between 30 and well, I'd see between 10 and 50, and that actually already that is a nice amount because sometimes I also have some smaller spawns which are 20, 25 fish, and well, then I don't respawn them. I mean, I then would rather choose to use the same male with a different female just to give me more genetic options than to respawn the same fish because at the end I only need two to continue, or maybe one male or a few females to continue. So when I look for defects like scale defects or row tail and these kind of things, I call really early. Like I said in the beginning, this is usually already done well as early as possible. I mean, if I spot them, these defects, I will do that immediately. And I have some predatory fish in my fish room where I let them swim then, and that goes very fast. So that's I think quite natural.
Hmm.
Um, and and actually from when they grow up, so the fish which make it, which are which are then which are healthy, I mean they usually grow up in a fish room, so that means that they are jarred, and they usually go to either a pet shop, they are sold to or given to other hobbyists, they go to shows where they are sold, or so that's basically where how that works.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in my setup, like, yeah, I guess it's at a rotating basis. Like,
Exactly.
the fry grow at different
Yeah.
ages. So in one spawn, you'll have fish that you jar at 2 months, and others you don't jar till 4 or 5. At least for
Yeah.
me. Like,
Yeah.
some, yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think that also is important, like when to plan other spawns. I mean, how to plan the spawns. It's not like that. I also look at the room which I have available. So I mean, you can breed easily that you have a few thousand fish. I mean, in your grow outs, but I think it's also important that you have to keep an eye on what can you actually hold. How many males can you keep?
Hmm.
Well, I'm quite lucky with a fish room. I can keep about 160 males jarred. But let me uh, put this straight that this is something which is almost never filled because
Hmm.
I really plan the spawns in such a way that when I have one big spawn, um, that means that I will need in 4 months, 3 4 months, I will need much more space to jar those fish than when I have three very small spawns. So spawn size also yeah determines a little bit how often I spawn and what room I have available. So I try to plan it that way as well.
Hmm. And I try to plan around shows too, because
Exactly.
one of
Exactly.
the main ways that I like try and get fish into the hobby and support other hobbyists is by I try to send fish to shows. I'm not always successful because I'm so busy and it's hard to get to the post office. But so what I try to do is I have fish that I think the early mature. I try to spawn when I think the early matures will be ready for some shows, and then so I'll start jarring them. I'll start evaluating, and then I'll send the fish that I think are good, but that I probably don't want to spawn to the show, and then show them and have them auctioned off, right? And then I just do that on a rotating basis. So even though I have very few jar space, I'm still like, there are still fish that are growing up in the grow out. You know, I haven't selected a ton of them to keep. It just is a rotating thing. And you just kind of have to just know your fish. I think just observe your fish, and then you'll be able to tell what you want to do with a certain fish.
Yeah, I think it is important, and also just to see how much space do you have available. I mean, it's nice when you can do a lot of spawns, but I mean, I see so many people in this hobby, you know, they are very enthusiastic, and that's something which I really, really like. But if you, at some point, you also have to focus, and I think when you want to build a line, you have to be very patient, but you also have to focus on something. I mean, you can breed crown tails, you can breed pluckouts, you can breed half moons, you can breed double
so many
bills.
things you can work
and then you have a few yeah, you can choose so many different colors, and that's all nice. I mean, they're all beautiful. I mean, all these fish, they have their own beautiful characteristics, but you have to plan something. Hi, boyfriend.
You saw it.
Yeah, I saw it.
He just got home.
So, but
he was like opening it like really quickly, like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hey, cameraman, do you want to say hi?
I haven't.
Hi, cameraman. Hi. But I think to get back to the issue, I think I think it's important to focus. I mean, I see a lot of people quitting the hobby in that they spawn so many things in the first months, and then they have in no time they have like a few thousand fry, and then when it is that time when these fish have to be jarred, then suddenly they don't have the time anymore, and they realize that how much work this is to actually clean these jars every other day, to feed those fish, to keep them warm, etc. And then energy bills go up, water bills go up, and then suddenly they don't have the time anymore, or they don't want to spend this time at their fish. Fish get sick, and then the hobby is stupid. And I think this is something which is important also, for breeders or hobbyists which are longer time in the hobby. Try to say this to new hobbyists also. I mean, if they go home with 20 fish at one time, I mean, maybe that's not the smartest idea. I mean, it's nice to sell them, but maybe you should take some more responsibility and say, hey, maybe it's better that you just start with 1 or 2 fish, and then just work with those and come back if you have some offspring.
Yeah, earlier you only need 2. Like you
and
only need 2.
Then it all works. But
well, yeah, I mean, I would say don't go home with just 2. Like
no, maybe a bit more to have some options.
Yeah,
maybe some options. But the point of what I try to make is just that people can, they can save a lot of fish up, and then start, and they have more fish than you and me in a few weeks. If they get the whole spawning going, but then they have to start jarring, and that's difficult.
Yeah, try and plan ahead, because you're gonna start with 2 to 4 fish, and then it's just gonna explode, and you need to make a good show fish or a breeder fish to make a good betta is just a lot of time and effort. It's so much time and effort. You're gonna spend so much time in your fish room.
I see a question coming up from Dwayne. What is the answer then? More education or a better network to send out fish to? Well, I think it's more to the hobbyists we're starting as well. I mean, also try to read. I mean, there are a lot of really nice websites where people actually say, if you want to start breeding, be prepared. I mean, realize that this costs time, space, money, and this is something which you should be willing to put into this hobby. And if you want to do this, I mean, you're working with live animals, so try to
plan
also
ahead.
If you want to breed for quality, you also have to give them quality care, and I think that is something which is which costs time and patience and also money.
A lot of love.
Yeah, and a lot of love. But also, what you get back is a lot of pleasure, and actually, what you get back is a lot of these, people who have the same sickness, where you can talk to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the community, the Betta community is pretty awesome. So
Exactly.
yeah, and I think that's a good one. So a better network. So I think here is where we can plug. You should join an organization of fellow like-minded individuals that are also infected with this sickness.
Well, I
What's
think
it
it
called?
is.
Like
Yeah. Well, I call it better sickness.
the Betta sickness. Yeah.
Testing with the virus. No, but I think it's important. I mean, look for a breeder close to you. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I think in the States, of course, in some parts of the world, I mean, maybe breeders are further apart. But when I started, I mean, there were not many breeders in the Netherlands working with Bettas. I mean, there are also now there are only a handful. So that means that if I wanted to have information, I actually went to Germany, and that's where the shows were, which I first went to. And where I then went to is that I also visited breeders. So you see how what their setup looks like, and if you have somebody close to you who you can visit, and maybe it is a few hours drive, but if you can really get that information, I think that certainly gives you a flying start, because most of them are really willing and eager to share their experiences, and all these hobbyists, they want to talk fish.
Just like we're doing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think so. Let's just plug in our clubs right now. So Falcon Punch is saying the only better community I know are the fighting communities. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It can be fine. It can be tough to find a club that works. But like for me, I'm gonna do some advertising. Look, California Betta Society, wearing the California Betta Society shirt. So
Well, I think
try and find one close to you. So CBS is a subsidiary. It's a chapter of the International Betta Congress. Okay, and then we also have Bettas for All. So and there are just tons of clubs and chapters and everything. So just try and find like-minded individuals, and then you can join. And there's so much information in all organizations everywhere. And
keep open-minded. I mean, I think that is very important. I mean, be flexible also in the way you think, because if you want to see how to spawn fish, I mean, we can make a whole new chat on this. But I mean, everybody has their own tips and tricks, and it doesn't mean that one is wrong or one is right. I mean, you see people spawning in styrofoam boxes, and you see people spawning in fully planted tanks with gravel on the bottom, and everything in between, and it all works. And I even have seen people who had like fully planted tanks with just normal sand on the bottom, raising 200 fry in that tank. And of course, there were no other fish there, but I mean, this also works. If that is that the best option? Well, for me, it isn't, but that's my decision. So I think that you have to be a little bit open-minded, and there's a lot of information there. And it's not that you have to do it my way or Gianne's way or from another breeder, but try to take out those things which you think are work for you and your fish, and what is available to you. What can you get from your surrounding? I mean, not everybody has maybe a fish room or a fish room to work in, or an aquarium store nearby, or I can understand that might, you have to work with the options which are available to you.
Yeah. So I think there are a lot of other questions here, like about the impact of environment on genetic expression. People are already hailing you as the Betta master, or the Betta king, or the Betta god.
Just a hobbyist.
There it is. But I think that a lot of these questions could go into another live stream if you would like to come back another day, Joep.
Please, yes.
Yeah, so we could talk about yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, because I think a lot of the questions that are here, first off, I don't think we could answer them fully with the time we have. I have to go. So just saying, I still have someone else. So
somebody else who wants attention.
yeah, and I gotta feed the fish. But
Exactly.
anyway, so I think a lot of these questions, like about nature versus nurture, we have things about double tail genes in particular, things like that. We should probably address that in another live stream. What do you think the next live stream could be? Like, just in general, an open free for all about beta genetics? Like,
yeah, we can do that. I mean, again, there's a lot of things which we think we know.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and even if we also don't know, if we don't know everything, I mean, I think we can still use the information which we have seen in a lot of spawn logs from all over the world. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's nice we can cover some specific genetics on several treats in a later. We can talk metallics, dragons, these kind of things.
Oh yeah,
Talk
there's
about,
so much.
Yeah, we can talk about tail types, how they are inherited, or what is the experience there. I think we can do that.
Yeah, here I'm actually gonna put that in my list. I have a list of series. So the first one we had was how to make a line.
Yeah.
So because I think that's really important. We can't talk about like traits and stuff until we talk about actually how to make a line.
Yeah.
Like how to hold, how to do stuff like that.
So are there specific, maybe from the people viewing or listening, are there specific specific things about line breeding which we still need to cover quickly?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Anyone? Everyone's going, you.
No.
Oh, hold on. Where did the chat go? Does anyone have any more questions specific to how to make lines, how to make like line breeding documentation, things like that? Anything? Okay, so one topic that we are getting a suggestion for a future thing is a live stream on setting up the Geno Pro program.
All right. Yeah.
So, and I already had in our in my list here that we would talk further about spawn documentation, because I don't know, I feel like for me pictures are really important. That's how I record everything. So exactly. I could talk a little bit about photography even. And I know you have different ways of photography, and as long as you get a clear picture, that's all you really need.
Yeah.
And then software and stuff.
Yeah.
And we could talk about like how I set up my website, how you set up your website, codes, what you write on the tanks.
Yeah.
So that could be one live stream. And then I think another live stream would be just like a general genetics trait talk about just people will come in with questions, right, about double tails or metallics or dragons or things like that.
What I can do is maybe, if you still have time, I don't know how many time you have, I can show you one more example of a nice way of line breeding where you actually can combine different tail types, etc. Maybe that's, you still have time?
Yeah, I still got a little bit of time. Yeah.
We'll show one more example. For the people who are shouting more pictures.
More pictures. I didn't even show any of my pictures. That's good.
Yeah, you should.
This is you. This is you.
No. So let me show you. This is another way of another example. See, what you see here is also within my red line. So a part of the pedigree which I showed you briefly in the Geno Pro program. When you look at this female, this was a female which was bred by a friend of mine. He's Arie de Koning from the Netherlands. And this female actually came from a cross between a male from him. So this was a dark-bodied red male. And this female actually was a female which I bred. So this was a comb-tail female. This was a female which came from a cross from an imported crown-tail male, together with a dark-bodied red female which had the bit of a blue iridescence on the body. So this female was long-finned, but it was carrying placard. So when it was crossed back to this placard, we actually got short-finned fish back. So this is a nice example of, this was a fish which went to a friend of mine. He bred it to one of his males, and then I got this female back from him to cross into my own lines. So what I did with this female is actually two things. So first I bred it to a male which I got from this cross. So just this was I forgot now by heart which generation, but I should look that up. But it was like it was a double-tail female which I crossed to one of the half-moon placard males. But on the other hand, I gave this female to a friend of mine in Italy, and actually this is the same picture, but it actually was a sister of this female. But for the sake of this presentation, I put the same picture there. He crossed it to a dark body orange, which popped up from his red line, and this gave also red offspring. This was a dark body red male. So this was also crossed to the same female. And what you see here then is that you get two different males, which both are nice half-moon placards, I think, to work with. This is a Cambodian-based male because here we crossed light body to light body. But here I crossed light body to dark body, and I also got both light body and dark body fish back. What I would like to show here is that it's really nice because this works. So these fish are actually the result of a collaboration, because what you see here is one friend here from the Netherlands who outcrossed one of my fish to his line. A friend from Italy outcrossed one of my fish to his line. So I got in new blood from two different lines, which are actually, came back to me in my fish room. And then when I crossed both those males to this female, I actually could work further with them. So this is a nice example of a part of the line and how you can actually build a line by working together with several people. So I think that's maybe a nice example to stop with.
Yeah, all the options. Like you can just imagine all the different ways you could go.
Yeah, and what is nice here, of course, that it also, you go further than just tail types. I mean, I already showed that I sometimes also outcross the half moons, the double tails, and here actually we also crossed in crown tail into a placard line. And of course, this was also to make a crown tail placard line. That's another story.
That's another story.
That's another story. But what we did here is that actually we can also use these fish to get back to get actually better smooth finned half moon placards. And of course, you also will get some fish with reductions in rays, etc. So that's a matter of selective breeding again. But it shows you that with the fish which are available, you sometimes can do more than what you think.
Yeah, think outside the box.
Exactly.
Like spawning a crown tail into a short fin placat line. What are you thinking?
Exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So
yeah, okay. So I think our next live streams are going to be about how to document spawns, one of them, and then another one can be like a genetics hangout. Maybe we could, I don't know how those would go. Just people would come in with questions and we could just start with a question and go from there. That could be fun, really fun too.
That's nice. That's nice.
So, all right.
So, Gianne, thank you very much for inviting me and to give the option to, to have this nice chat with you. And of course, thank you to all the listeners and viewers and people who wrote questions in the chat. I hope you found it useful and keep on breeding these beauties.
Yeah, more people. We need to infect more people with the Betta breeding bug.
Share.
Share. So yeah, this video will be online shortly. So and can be viewed at any time after this. Thank you everyone for showing up and being really patient with the technical difficulties at the beginning. I'm still learning how to use it. It's so frustrating, but you guys know that. So anyway, thanks Stacy for being an awesome moderator.
Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks, Stacy. Okay. And yeah, we'll figure out another live stream someday soon.
Cool.
All right. So I think we are going to sign off. Joep, you're not going to get bumped off the Hangout quite yet, but I'm just going to stop the broadcast, okay?
All right.
So,
Thank you.
all right. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.